I'm Norma Jean Shaw with the Royal Examiner, and today we are talking with a Korean War veteran, Mr. Jack Keep, who was on business in South Korea and decided to go up to the mountains of Pyeongchang and attend the Winter Olympics for a bit. So thank you for stopping by to talk to us at the Royal Examiner. Pretty exciting that you got to go to the Olympics.
It was. It was an experience of a lifetime.
And pretty cold.
And very cold.
Well, let's talk about that. You had some meetings in South Korea, in Seoul, and you were able to take a lengthy motor coach ride up to Pyeongchang. Tell us about it.
Well, on the way up there, we also had an opportunity to meet with the governor of the province that the Olympics was held in. Well, a couple of interesting things that he shared with us was that his province is partly in North Korea, which causes some difficulties in sharing things. The other thing was that he also emphasized the fact that they are cooperating in recovering the remains of some of our MIAs and returning them to their homeland, because it being straddling the 38th parallel. Some of the larger battles were fought in that area, so that was an interesting experience with the governor there.
I'm sure, and for folks who may not know you, you enlisted at the age of 17 in the Korean War, or in the military, and fought in the Korean War. So that must have been something for you to return. I know it wasn't your first trip back. You actually went back with your daughter in 2015?
Yes.
How was that, returning?
Since I was in the Navy, we were off the coast of North Korea most of the time. And when we went ashore in Japan, not in Korea. So
Probably safe and smart.
my wife teases me about that sometimes, and I say that's why we have the Marines. They go ashore for us. But I did see the pictures of the devastation of the country, and they were pretty widespread. So we all had an idea of the conditions in Korea, which was pretty primitive before the war started, but with the armies going back and forth, there was total devastation. So to go back to Korea and see a very modern city, a huge city where I think there are some 25 million people.
Pretty astounding.
In Seoul and the area.
Yeah. Korea is now one of the, I guess, powerhouses of the world. They're, 11th or 12th as far as the ranking in the world as far as power. Pyeongchang, however, it's way up in the mountains, and it pretty much was built up for the Olympics, I'm guessing.
Yes, it was. As you travel east from Seoul into the mountains, you notice that it's agricultural country, fishing, mostly a food producing area of the country, and cold winters.
Oh yeah, I bet it was pretty cold there.
Yes.
From what we've seen on the news reports. So what did you do when you got to Pyeongchang? Did you have time to visit and go out, see fellow Americans, see people who were there, as well as attend Olympic events?
The first thing we did, in lieu of the fact that there wasn't anything going on immediately, first thing we did was go to the huge tent where they have all the souvenirs, mainly to keep warm. It was heated, but it was well organized to the point where as soon as merchandise went off the shelves, it was replaced immediately. There were no lines for paying for your purchases, because they had everything engineered to where you just walk up to the counter, give them your credit card, and you're finished.
No long hot chocolate lines?
No hot chocolate.
Oh my,
No.
that's pretty severe.
They did have food stamps.
Sure, of course.
So that's pretty much how we spent the early part of the afternoon, and then from there we went into the stadium and located where we were going to be sitting, and took our seats about an hour and a half, 2 hours before the event started.
Now, which events did you, were there to participate? Not to
We
participate,
were there
but
for
to see
mainly the opening ceremony.
the opening ceremony. Oh, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was. It was very impressive with the lighting and the pyrotechnics and the routines that they had.
It's always
Yeah,
spectacular.
yeah, it was very impressive.
But that was a couple of hours long, I believe.
We were probably in those seats for 3.5, 4 hours.
Wow. How cold
And
was
yeah,
it?
very cold,
Very
very
cold.
cold. I would judge it was probably close to zero.
And that was inside with a lot of people, and you couldn't move around a lot. One of the things that we do when we're cold is we try to move around and get the body to
Yeah.
move and the blood flowing. So
I was warm for about the first 3 hours.
So how long did you stay there? Did you get to see any events other than the opening?
We were not able to see the events. After the opening ceremony was over, we got on our bus and traveled back to Seoul. We got back there about 2 o'clock in the morning, so it was a long day.
But you've got to witness something that lots of folks have never seen, any part of an Olympics up close and personal.
I never dreamed I'd do it in my lifetime.
Well, you are in your early 80s, and you started out in Korea when you were 17, so
I did.
that's pretty amazing. Let's talk a little bit about the Korean War. A lot of people call that the Forgotten War. It happened after World War II had ended, and folks had come home, and it was all about rebuilding families. Everybody was on the home front, and you were there even after the war ended, so you must have had a pretty different homecoming than a lot of folks who came home at the end of the war.
Yes, I would say that would be the case. When we came back from Korea, we were going into Philadelphia Naval Shipyard for a complete overhaul of the ship. And since I was on a destroyer in a division of 4 ships, our skipper was the junior skipper, so we were the last ship to moor alongside the pier, which means that by that time nobody was there to greet us.
Well, that's no fun.
So that was our homecoming, and when I came home to see my friends, nobody really knew or cared where we'd been because everybody was busy with their own lives.
Sure, they'd gotten on after World War II, and a lot of folks, Korea was far away, and it probably wasn't on the radio every day like the news of World War II.
And through the years, there was a lot more attention given to the World War II veterans because there are 15 million of them who served during the Second World War. There were about 1.5 million who traveled through Korea.
That's a big
So
difference.
it's a big difference. And the events of national life were such that people didn't have to feel like they were part of the war.
Sure.
I was growing up during World War II, and so I remember that everybody sacrificed something.
Absolutely.
And everybody was aware every day that there was a war going on. That
Right.
wasn't true in Korea.
Certainly. I mean, if you were a child during World War II, you probably remember that lots of things were rationed. People learned to cook without butter. They learned to do without certain supplies that the military needed. Mothers went to work in factories. It was a whole new way of
Yes.
life.
If you saw a line, you got on it and tried to find out what it was for.
You knew you'd probably need it, so you were happy to be in a line.
Everything was rationed.
Yes, so fast forward into the, I guess, was it the 80s, or not the 80s, but in the last 10, 15 years, there started to be more awareness for Korean War veterans, and the Korean War Veterans Association now has chapters in every state.
Yes.
And you're part of one in Winchester, which is number 313.
313.
Is your chapter.
Yes.
And you're having a 10th anniversary this year.
We are.
So what kinds of things will you be doing for your 10th anniversary?
Well, I don't think there are any special plans. We'll probably have a dinner for the members.
Oh, you must have a dinner.
You know, on the date that we
Sure.
received our charter.
But how many members do you have?
We have, I think we have 106 right now.
That's a pretty good number because Korean veterans are in their late 70s, early 80s.
The average age of Korean War veterans is 86.
My, so that's a hardy bunch, but that is
Yeah. And
that's
we've lost a lot of our members, who just passed on.
sure. So it's especially important to be aware that there's an organization that honors them where they can hang out and fellowship and
We
share
also
memories.
include Korean defense veterans.
Mm-hmm.
There are all of those men who have served in Korea and along the DMZ since 1955. So we include those men as part of our
And that's pretty fascinating. And I think with these Olympics, people are more aware of the DMZ, you know, the average citizen who might not know a whole lot about it. And what's fascinating to me, I saw a news piece this morning on the morning TV news. Their tours, both sides, in North Korea and South Korea, they give tours to the public, and you can go and take a look at what's on the other side, and you can walk on either side. You can be standing in South Korea and then step over to North Korea on each side of the DMZ.
No, not that part.
Well,
There are tours to North
right,
Korea,
yes, but
but
when
at the
you're
DMZ
standing, right.
you cannot cross.
No, you can't cross, but when you're standing, if you're in South Korea, there's a line here, there's a table that was set up. They haven't had talks in 9 years, but if you're on this side of the table, you're in North Korea, and if you walk to this side of the table, you're in South Korea.
That's
It's
true.
fascinating stuff.
And we were at the DMZ 2 years ago, and you can see the line. There's a black line that goes across, marking the 38th parallel.
Crazy. But so you've seen a lot in your lifetime. What would you like for folks to know about the hardy folks who fought the Korean War and the veterans who remain?
Well, I think that I would like people to understand that there are a lot of young men who gave up opportunities in life that other friends of theirs, like friends of mine, were enjoying here in this country. Some of my friends were getting good jobs, and I was serving the country, which I was happy to do. Also, I think it's important for us to remember the 37,000 who left their lives behind. Those are the men who are the real heroes. And then we have many men who are missing in action. Their graves have not been discovered yet. Their remains have not been returned, and we want people to know that our government is making an effort to recover those remains. The ones in North Korea, of course, is another story.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for your service and your sacrifice, and we should never forget those who have given the ultimate sacrifice.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your time.